Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again, today with a brand new video. It's been a couple of days since the expansion has gone live, and I thought it was time to give you 5 decks for both Standard and Wild that you can take and reasonably expect to climb, whether it's getting to Legend for the first time, or just Diamond, Platinum, Gold, or Silver. Maybe you haven't even had Silver yet. You might be able to take one of these decks, and I will warn that it is still pretty early on. Craft at your own risk. There's a good chance we're gonna be getting a balance patch within a week or so before the holiday break. I know they have one scheduled, and there's a lot of stuff out of whack, which we're probably gonna talk about in a video tomorrow for both Standard and Wild, what balance changes are probably going to be needed. But in the meantime, give you guys some decks to try out. I'll try and give you some competitive stuff and maybe a bit more competitive slash fun. Before we get into it, just a friendly reminder that if you enjoy this content and you feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button below. Give the video a like. It helps the channel out a ton. I really appreciate it. So let's take a look. Starting off with the standard decks, Death Knight really just isn't killing it on ladder. It can't really compete with the insane mana cheat or combo decks, but other than that, it's doing okay. And I'm gonna highlight a deck by Theo here. Triple Blood Control Death Knight. The deck does well if you could dodge like a lot of the combo decks, in particular like Ramp Druid or the Arcane Hunter deck, that both of which are on this list that I will show you. But other than that, like, it beats board-based decks. It's an insane control style deck. It's got tons of removal, AoE, healing. You've got, you got your disruption in there to try and beat those combo decks. Patchwork, Mutinous, and yes, even 6-mana Theotar. That is how combo heavy this meta is. You're running all the disruption you can. You have Zola in there to basically bounce one of those if possible, and you have your own win conditions, of course, in the ever exciting Sire Denathrius, but as well as Alexandros, Mograine, and your No Munchers can push damage. The deck is a blast. I love playing it. The win rate is not amazing, but it's good enough that you can climb, have some success with, and I love it. I love it. Death Knight is just, I've been enjoying it so freaking much, and I really recommend it. It's one of my favorite decks to play maybe ever. I enjoy it that much. I just wish the meta was a little bit more favorable towards it. Starting off now, we're gonna go into the real heavy hitters. These are the really strong decks, starting off with Miracle Rogue with Concoctions. Basically, you have, the whole Concoction package in here with Concoctor, Ghoulish Alchemist, which lets you cheat them out, Professor Putricide, Puke. I've got the signature card. I need the golden one. We'll get that eventually. And yeah, you got your locations. You build these giant unanswerable minions early. Necrolord Draka, Edwin a draw. It's that whole miracle shell with the concoctions, and they're really good. Potion belt to get whatever you want. And all of a sudden, this deck can get through taunts by just getting double deadly shot. And it's just an incredible deck. It's probably too good. This is one of the decks I would expect to get dialed back. So if you're wary of crafting some of these cards, it's a good shot that something like the location, something like that, could get nerfed in the future. So look out for that. But yes, very powerful deck, not the easiest to pilot. And of course, you do also have in here the legendary spell Shadow of Demise that just ridiculous deck. It's super good. Speaking of that, we have Ramp Druid, arguably again the best deck in the game. It's Rogue, Druid, and Hunter are like the top 3 classes right now. It's not that much different than what you're used to. You ramp up, and well, now your armor in here. I was wrong about Chitinous Plating. Apparently it's good enough to run. You gain 8 armor, help stay alive. You have a new Brecon, which just allows you to do disgusting things. This list doesn't even run alignment, but you do have in here Under King to get even more armor, and of course you have Denathrius, of course you got Bran, but you can even get Astalor in there, going Astalor with Bran and all that type of shenanigans, in particular with the new Brecon. You can combo, deal like 1 billion damage, do disgusting things, and yes, this deck is very good, very strong, is kind of crushing it. So if you want to give Ramp Druid a shot, I'd give that one a go too. Again, expensive deck, and another one that I could see getting adjusted. I think a lot of these top decks all could see adjustments because they're way above everything right now. It's quite startling how above they are. And we have the new kid on the block, Arcane Hunter, in particular Shock Spitter Hunter. This card is gross. I think it's getting nerfed. It is ridiculous how fast you could scale up the damage, whether it's with a candle shot, a harpoon gun, a blood seeker. You just amp up the damage. You get more copies with Warsong Wrangler, Zola, Brewmaster, Selective Breeder, Devouring Swarm, and then you just do an insane OTK on like turn 7 and 8 with Bran. I've taken like 50 in one turn from this deck. It's absurd, and I imagine if a card does get adjusted, it's probably going to be Shock Spitter, which is a common, so this deck's probably relatively safe to craft, and cards like Warsong Wrangler are pretty good, the epic in here. But regardless, disgusting OTK deck, and you see that this meta is very not super board based, a lot of non-interactive stuff going on, again kind of hinting at tomorrow's video. And then lastly, of Spell Demon Hunter, asterisk on this deck, not working as intended at the moment, still performing well despite that. But basically, if you have Soul Eater Scythe, the card, the whole spell package built around, if you have that in your opening hand, keep it. Otherwise, it will screw up the deck. If it's not in your hand, you're fine, you're good to go, but don't mulligan it away or else it won't work. They said they're gonna hotfix it, which could go live later today. I'll keep you guys updated on that, maybe in tomorrow's video. But regardless, outside of that, it is just Relic Demon Hunter coupled with Fell spells, but overall, the whole spell package gives you survivability, deal with a devil, building a board of lifesteal minions, super powerful. Feldori Warband is really solid in there, and then you have the Silvermoon Arcanist, which if you put with Fel Barrage is a lot of damage, but in particular Unleash Fel is a ton of AoE and a ton of healing, which is what this deck kind of struggle with to stay alive. And the deck's really fun. I highly recommend it, and the numbers are good. This is one of the ones I would expect to probably not get nerfed. And also Feldori Warband, ridiculous card. This deck is super solid and definitely a fun one to try. Moving on to Wild. Wild is messed up. Like, they need some help because this deck, Discard Warlock, is utterly broken in the Zeddy term of it. It's just dominant, and it just can kill people as early as like turns 3 and 4. All because, amazingly, a card like Cataclysm is meta because every card you discard is insane, right? Like Fist of Jaraxxus, Soul Barrage, Hand of Gul'dan. You get taunts, you get cutlery, you get spiders, and you can push damage with Soulfire. And of course, you have Malkazar's Imp, which coupled with Tome Tampering draws a bunch of cards. They're all one. The deck is just ridiculous, and I think we need an intervention in Wild because it is just showing win rates of upwards of like 70 to 80% in some brackets. Disgusting. And the main reason I'm only going to offer a few like serious decks for Wild, and we're going to give you 2 flavorful ones because honestly the format's pretty messed up at the moment. Next I'm going to go with Jade Armor Druid. Basically it's got the whole mill package with like Due Process, but again a new Brecon coupled with Brandon Astalor can do gross stuff, and of course you got Lotheb to try and lock people out, Twig and Sphere to gain ridiculous mana, as well as Gloop, and of course Jade Idol to go infinite. You might want to throw Denathrius in as well. There's tons of builds of this, but I just thought I'd highlight a Jade Idol one, and maybe one that just doesn't have Denathrius for once. And the last competitive deck I will suggest is Miracle Concoction Rogue in Wild, which is again another powerhouse of a deck. Basically, Lotheb's there to lock out all like the spell-based decks, but you have Edwin Van Cleef in Wild, which is pretty busted, and then you put in the Concoction package, a Putricide, Potion Belt, you have Secret Passage, one of the most disgusting rogue cards ever. I even note that the legendary spell here, Shadow of Demise, isn't in there. You probably could slot it in. This is definitely not super refined, but the idea of, get your locations going, get giant minions, do concoction nonsense. The deck is super good, super non-interactive, and definitely tilts me, but it's a good deck if you want to give it a go. And then the last 2 are definitely not competitive. People hit legend with it, but they're content creators, they're good players. And we're gonna start off with Engines, Reno, Casino, Questamage. The deck's really fun. I played a variant of it in Theory Crafting. You hit legend with it, and it's built around the whole like new legendary Grand Magister Rometh. Yes, he has terrible cards in here like Flame Leviathan that he tutors with Seafloor Gateway to get an AoE. Just run whatever cards you want instead of that. It's terrible. I'm sorry, Engine. But overall, you can recast your Waygate here with your Parrot, your Vexalis, and you got a bunch of generation with Kazakis, which again will get recast by your legendary. Zephrys, you can get spells and recast, and you have Arc Splitter and Ruined Orb and plenty of random to go around in this deck. And overall, it's a blast to play. Is it super competitive? Not really, but it can win games, and you can do really degenerate quest mage stuff of taking infinite turns. And lastly, I will highlight Martian Boo's Triple Blood Reno Death Knight. He hit legend with this, I think, day 1 of the expansion, and it just looks really rad. It's really cool. You're running a Reno with all the triple blood stuff. You got Reno Jackson in there, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, coupled with all the incredible AoE cards, and you have some, you know, discover options like Valpyra Scoundrel, even Arcane Dynamo. Since the pool is so limited, you can get a Scourge like pretty reliably and other big big spells in Death Knight. So overall, really fun deck. Again, probably not super competitive, but again, in Wild, it's so messed up right now with Discard Warlock that I just can't really like say it, like Secret Mage, Aggro Rogue, whatever. You might as well just play Discard Warlock. It's just utterly broken. So there you go. 5 decks you can play in Standard and Wild. Hopefully you guys have some fun. I'm not loving this meta, by the way. We're achievement hunting. We're doing a lot of arena. We're going to talk about in tomorrow's video. So if you're feeling like the meta doesn't feel right for you, you're not alone on that right now. I'm feeling like this is a little bit too solitaire, high roll based. And well, again, we'll talk about it tomorrow. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.